Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's in My Workbench, I think I've got a fun project here for you. It's a beginner project for sure, or if you wanted, you could do some tooling on this and make it, a much more advanced project. But it came to mind because this is a time of year for maybe cool evenings at a football game or going out to enjoy the fall colors in the park and needing a blanket along. And you can carry a blanket like this, but I'm going to show you a fun project that's going to be a lot more fashionable to have. And I think it would make a great gift as well. I appreciate you taking time to be with me in the shop today. Let's get over here on this workbench and get this project started. To get started, I'm going to take some measurements off of this blanket. Now, I'm going to make it specifically for this blanket, but I'll make sure that there's extra holes larger and extra holes smaller in case you end up using a different blanket as well. So to get started, I need to measure the width of this roll, and it is 16 inches. So I'll write down here the 16. And then we need to measure, I know we could do it math-wise, but I'll just cheat and we'll just wrap around here and see how long the strap needs to be for this here. And we need 20 inches is going to be from buckle to the hole used. It doesn't seem like it's 20 inches around there. All right, so that's really the two measurements that we need. So let me set this blanket out of the way so I don't get it dirty. All right, so if I'm gonna have 20 inches, that's from buckle to the hole used, I think I need to make it a little bit bigger so that I've got room to put a larger blanket roll in there, and then I'm going to go smaller, obviously, but that's just putting additional holes. So I think what I need to do is I need enough for the fold over on the buckle end, which I'm going to use kind of a smaller buckle, so it doesn't need to be huge. So I'll say 2 inches. That's 22, and then I'm going to kind of go with what I do on my belts. 6.5. Let's round that up. So I'm going to say 8 inches longer. So I'm just going to say 30 inch. So I need 2 straps, 30 inches. And then the top piece that's going to go across the top for my handle, I'm going to say probably 3 inches. And I'm not going to go the full width. I think if I come in 1.5 inches on each side, that's about right. So I need 3 by 13 inches. I need just one of those. And then I'm going to do some handle stuff, but let's get started with these basics first. Okay, so I was going to just start with some 1-inch straps and work backwards into it, but I thought, I'm going to look through my hardware here. I've got hardware that sometimes I buy thinking that it's going to be specific for somebody, and then it ends up in here. So let me see what I've got that might be, left over from a project or one-offs. Maybe I bought 3 and only needed 2. Let me go through here and see what I've got. I could use these. I've made dog collars with these center bar buckles. That would work as well. I've got this center bar. Let me see what else I've got. It's good to try to use up some of the oddball items if it works out that way. But you know what? I'm thinking about it. I'm going to make a shoulder strap, and it'd be nice to have the hardware match. I may make it with that. Let's see what else I have here. Oh, there's some D-rings. That's in that same finish as well. I think we're getting a theme going here, but I've only got one of these. I need 2. Oh, no, I've got a whole package of them. So I'm going to use this matte nickel hardware. I'm going to need, I'm not sure. Let's decide on that when I get there. But I'm going to use the matte nickel. I've got my swivel bolts I've got some D-rings, and I've got some buckles here, and these are 3/4 inch all the way across. So I'm going to use 3/4 inch strap material for the main straps. And I've got some stuff cut here already. Let's see if I've got enough. Looks like I do. Yeah, I think that'll work for the main straps. And then the handle, I might use 1 inch on that. Oh, you know what? Let's keep it simple. There's a shorty. So if you're following along, these are 3/4 inch. And let's make sure that my hardware, sometimes it's labeled 3/4 and it's not really 3/4. Nope, 3/4 will work fine. That's gonna be for my handle. So I need 2 strips, 3/4 by 30 inches here. And I'll lay it out here, make sure it looks nice, and it does. $30. You know, I'm always afraid of coming in a little bit short. Let's go 31. You know, the holidays are coming, and you can buy, you know, fairly nice little blankets, you know, around the holidays without spending a bunch of money. And this would be a way to take that and make it look really custom to have that. You know, I've got plenty of leather here for my handles. All right. Okay, so then I need a piece that's 3 by 13. So next, I'm going to make sure we're square here on this end. Not quite, pretty close though. And I said 13. I'm just going to take my rounding tool and round these 4 corners to get started. All right, now these straps are going to be attached up here at the top, and we're probably going to come in about here. And I think the way to attach them will be with a, I might use a Chicago screw or a post rivet here. Considering that my hardware is a matte nickel, I'm not sure that my post rivets, which are either copper or brass, would look right. So I'll probably just use a Chicago screw here. But I'm trying to think. I've got a couple things going on here. I'm going to have the strap that goes around the blanket, and then the strap that makes up the handle. And I think if I do this right, it might look kind of interesting here. Because if I come in over here and go over this edge, that'll hold this up so it doesn't flip up. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do, is I will weave this through here. So it'll come over the front edge, go through here, and then back out here and around the other side. And then this one, I think is going to do the opposite. It'll come over here and under and get attached here and here. And then I'll push this up into a handle. Yeah, okay. All right, so if I'm going to do that, let me see. I think I need to come in. I think an inch is good. So to mark that, an inch. Okay. And I think I want, probably a 1/2 inch of leather in from that slot. And it's going to be just a small slot for this to go through. I'm just going to make a line to parallel here with my bag punch. And I happen to have a 7/8 bag punch, which I think will be a nice size. A little bit of extra room, but not too much extra. If you had some short scrap maybe left over from belts, a lot of times we end up with, these little 18 or 20 inch long pieces. That would be a good place to find your strap material for this. Okay, so I think we're gonna go through, I wasn't explaining well. We're gonna go through like this. And I think that'll hold this down nicely instead of having it flare up. Okay, let's, this is just kind of could be a boring piece of leather. I think we need to put some tooling on here and dress this up a bit. And I will have my handle here, so maybe before I do the tooling, I should lay out the slots for my handle. Let's do that. Yeah, I think we're going to come through underneath here. And the handle doesn't need to be terribly wide, and I want to introduce my D-rings in here. So let me show you what I've got in mind. I'm going to come in that same 1/2 inch here. Let me put just a light mark here because I'm going to need to find center. Yeah, just kind of making it up as I go. I'm sitting here thinking that may not be quite right, because if I make that slot there, I don't have a whole lot of room to put a fastener here to hold that on the back side. Trying to visually see what would be best. We're 1 inch. Let's go 3/4 inch. We're not going to worry about that mark I put because I think we'll cover that up with some tooling. 3/4 inch. Okay. So this is 3.5 inches, or 3 inches wide, so I need 1.5 inches here to find the center. And if you come from both sides, it will be somewhat self-correcting if your measurement is not exactly right. You'll be able to see that. And while I'm here, let me put a mark here to find center. Somewhat arbitrary as far as the distance from the end, but I'll fix that in a moment. Okay, I'm just going to center off of the that center mark. I'm just going to center the bag punch on that. Okay, this strap is going to go under like this, and I'll put a fastener here, and then it's going to go back the other direction over here. And what I want to do is, let's look and see here, about 1/8 of an inch off of there. So I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. Find my spot here. And over this way, 1/8 of an inch. There. This straddled here. Okay, yeah, it was an audible. Probably, it's not the end of the world here, but I envisioned it going differently, but this is the way it's going to need to go with the handle the way it is. So I was going to put the D-ring over here, but I'll just put it out here as part of this out here. So the D-ring will go in here. Yeah. We'll just do that on the other side as well. And so now that I know where the holes need to go, I'll back up and let's do a little bit of tooling on this to dress up this plain piece as well. And you could get very elaborate with your tooling. I'm just going to do a simple border on this blanket holder. We'll start off, add a little bit of moisture here. All right, I'm going to let that just sit for a moment, and when the surface starts to dry out and look a little bit its normal color, then we'll be ready to lay out a pattern here. But like I said, I'm just going to, I think, just tool a border around this, just something simple. You could get as crazy as you wanted. I suppose you could put a name in here if you want as well. All right, so we're ready to start laying out the pattern. I've got a couple tools that I don't think I've used in combination before, but I'm going to try it on this one. I think it's kind of a common combination, but I want to make sure I leave enough room for that between these stamps. And here it's not so important because the strap is going to cover that. Now, I want to say, I've not been tooling all that long. So there's people out there that are going to tool a lot better than me. I guess you can be critical if you want, but understand where it's coming from. Let me grab my hammer. And I think I need to start here in this corner because that is a static point. It's not going to change. It's not up for negotiation, you might say. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. And then I'm just going to lay this in here and see how it fits. Yeah, so I'm going to have more space, but that's okay because I will have these to kind of fill in that space. So I can get 4 in here, but 5 would be a challenge, I think. Let me try one more time here. 5 isn't going to fit. So if it's going to be 4, then I think this may be totally wrong, but I'm going to lay this guy in here. Yep, just visually center. And then I might as well, boy, this may be a big mistake. Let me divide this again. I think that'll work. While I have it fresh in my mind, I'll just do the same thing here. All right. Now going down the side here, I'm just going to let it run. And when we get down to the end here, when I get close, I'll start to futz with it some. And remember, I've got these 2 spots here that the strap's going to go over. So I can probably make some corrections there if I need to. You know, I could start in the center and work my way out. No, I think I'm going to do it this way. I know, make up your mind, Robert. Now I've got probably a heavy 1/8 space there. So I'm just going to lay that in here. I don't know if you notice, I've got a new countertop surface here. I went by a local granite shop, and I could see in their backyard they had stuff back in the weeds. Old forgotten materials, and I asked them about it, and they said, well, there's nothing suitable for a countertop back there. It's all either stained, scratched, cracked, you know, something wrong with each one of them. And I'm like, well, can I dig through there and find something? And they're like, knock yourself out. And I found this piece, and it was almost, if I had measured and gave a size to make, it was like within 1 inch in both directions of what I wanted. So that's a good find. I went off and left the countertop material that I normally haul here, the one I usually move back and forth, and it's nice not to have to move it back and forth now. And there was a few people noticed that I had been working on a sheet of glass. It was 1/4 inch tempered that I had been using. Let me make this adjustment here. And I was extremely happy to get this. This is actually going to work out about right here. I guess even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. All right, while this is drying, let's work on our straps and handle material. And I think I want to do straps first. And I need 2 round ends for the buckle end. And I don't have a 3/4 inch, this is 7/8. And it actually looks wider than 7/8. That's what it's measured as. That's pretty much an inch. All right, for this English point, I want to find the center. Makes it easier to line up my English point on that little mark there. And this is an English point, BHT English point that I just purchased from Landwerland Leather out of Indianapolis just a few days ago. I'm not quite ready to mount this yet, but I just wanted to eyeball it, make sure that it's looking right. And it is. Yeah. I think I want to do some edge work on this. Just a little bit of moisture in here. I don't need a lot. I'm just going to run this creaser along here. Let me get it off this mat. In my opinion, the moisture helps this crease to set a little bit more. So I'm going to use my Ron's number 2 edger here, and I start on the back. That's the hardest to do, and it's easier if that front side hasn't been rounded over yet. It's supported better this way. So I'll get the back here first. That's the back. Now we'll do the front. And I let this dry out most of the way from the creasing before I try to do this. It's harder to do if it's damp, to keep it from maybe digging in places. Okay, I'm going to let a little moisture back in this, and I'm just going to wet the whole thing here. And then I'm just going to pull it through some denim here, slick down those edges. Got a shine on there. It's kind of hard to edge or burnish the edge of a fairly thin, narrow strap, and I think this works pretty well, at least for me. I'll just pull it through some denim here. And it'll get me the burnish I need. The one thing I do need to figure out, though, before I set that out of the way, is the length of my handle material. And let's start off by putting a round over on one end here. And you could pull it tight, but I want to put a little bit of an arch in it here. You know, I might as well just feed it on through here, because you measure and calculate, and then next thing you know, you calculated wrong. Dale always says, every chance you get, take the math out of it. Yeah, I think that's about right. There we go. So here's my shoulder strap, and I'm just going to opt just for a simple, no adjustment shoulder strap. And obviously you can do as fancy as you want, but I'm just going to treat this the exact same as I did the handle. So not a lot of follow here. I will dampen it. I'll put my edge on it. I'll round it over. I'll burnish it, and I'll come back when we're ready to put the bolt swivels on there. There's nothing here to see. All right, so we're ready for our final assembly. I have all of the components here, I believe, and I went ahead and put a light coat of oil on these and let those soak in. So we are ready to move along here. And this is the shoulder strap. So let's get that going here. I find it easier sometimes just to go ahead and kind of layer it up here and get those holes made. Seemed like early on I would just guess the distance between, and I wouldn't end up with enough there. Now that I have that end, I want them to match. So let's layer that up. And I'm going to use some 3/16 Chicago screws. I purchased these from the buckle guy. Let's see if I have enough here. Looks like I'm one short. I need 6 and I have 5. Take a time out. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. You know, it worked out better. I have 3/16 in this matte nickel. I realized that these are the nickel plated. That's the full sheen. So maybe things work out like they're supposed to. At least now our finish matches. The one thing I do like about the buckle guy Chicago screws is that if I need 3/16, quarter, or even 3/8, the finish matches, so I can mix the different lengths and it still works out good. So that is an advantage. I could probably go with a double cap rivet, but I do like the Chicago screws. So that completes our shoulder strap. I can set that out of the way here. The next thing we need to do is let's prep these here. Might as well go ahead and put the buckle on. So I need to create a slot for the buckle. Let's do this. I think that's going to be long enough. And if you remember, I said I was going to do 30 inches, but then at the last minute I wanted another inch. I ended up cutting that inch back off of it. It was just going to be too long. Sounds like it's starting to rain outside. And I think I've mentioned it at least 100 times now, but I use the clear fingernail polish on these Chicago screws, and they do not come undone. And the main reason why I like it is because it's sealed, got its own applicator, it's easy to use, and it's also fairly inexpensive. I think we bought this at the dollar store, so. All right, we are ready to go. The next thing I need to do, let's dry fit one of these in here. And have to imagine the blanket in there. It's going to be about there. Looks like a harness for a dog. I think I like that. So 1.5 inches should get me to the middle of the body of this. To me, this is the easiest way to make sure that they're fastened in the same location. We are closing in on the done part of this. You know, a double cap rivet would probably be plenty strong for this. But that's kind of the way I build things typically, is if a little bit is good, a lot is better. We are just about there. And I'll put in the description, I'm going to go ahead and I haven't really done this in the past, but I'm going to put since it's pretty simple here, I'll put a cut list of these parts here, because I think there's a possibility that, you know, people might find that useful. Stop. Yeah, I realize it. Anybody else notice what I didn't do here? I need to put these D-rings in. They're hard to add afterwards, I'm assuming. We are just about there. Line these up here. Make sure this is pulled snug there. Hey, if you didn't want to use Chicago screws on this, you could probably do 3 or 4 stitches in the right place on each of these spots, and you would have it covered. Okay, and we are just about done. Let me measure here on this strap. And we had 20 inches. Let's go 3 smaller and 3 bigger. 19, 18, and 17. And 21, 22, and 23. I think we're there. All right, let's see how it works. You know, when you're headed out for a picnic, you got your hands busy, obviously with the picnic basket or a cooler. So it's nice to have a way to carry your blanket that is maybe a bit stylish and easier to control as well. Now, if you knew for sure this was the blanket it was going to be with all the time, you could cut your straps a little bit shorter if you wanted. Put our shoulder strap on here. Let's turn this around, and like I said, I'm going to put the measurements in there. Obviously, if you want to make your strap shorter, then you could do that as well. But I wasn't 100% sure of what blanket this was going to be with. So let's turn the camera around and take a look at this. Well, there you go. A simple project you can probably make out of your scrap bin. I just used a little bit of 3/4 inch strap I already had, a little bit of tooling. You could match the color. I've got blue. I could have done this in blue to match this. There's lots of different color options. Black is always a classic color as well. And you can make it with or without the shoulder strap, but it's a handy way to carry your blanket on the way to the park. So you have your hands free to carry the cooler or chairs. So there you go. I appreciate you taking time to be with me in the shop today. Please like, share, and subscribe. But more importantly, I really do hope you have a great day.